All right, guys, today we're going to talk about parallel and perpendicular lines. Let's see if this works for us. All right, in your do now, it asks you to find what is the slope of these lines. So let's look at them one by one. We remember this form is the y equals mx plus b form. And our slope for this first one is whatever's in front of the x. So that one is 4. If we didn't get 4, we need to figure out what we were looking at wrong. So that means for the second one, whatever is in front of the x, everything that is in front of the x, including the negative sign. So that is negative 3. So that means that for our y equals mx plus b, our slope-intercept form, our slope is our n. Okay, so after today, you should be able to identify slopes of parallel and perpendicular lines, and you will show your understanding by successfully completing your exit ticket. The expectation of this whole process that we're starting new today is that while you're watching this video, you are taking notes. There is a handout. I hope you grabbed it. Fill in these notes as you are going through this video. You might have to add a couple of more. Once you're done, you will cut out the rectangle and glue it or staple it or tape it into your notebook. Another expectation is no talking, and unless it is to people in the group that you're sitting with about something said in the video. You're not chit-chatting about something else. We're doing this differently because there's too much of that. You also are expected to use your time wisely. That means that I am only allowing you to watch this video for a certain amount of time to take your notes. You need to use that time to take all of your notes. Also, ask questions when they come up. All right, let's look at some vocabulary words. So our first word is parallel lines. As you can see over here, we have some parallel lines. They are a little blurry. I apologize. The definition of parallel lines, if we remember, they are lines that never meet or intersect. So if we have these two lines, that's line AB, and this is line CD. We want to say that they are parallel to each other. We say line AB parallel to line CD. We remember from our very first lesson in here, this is how you kind of shorthand lines with the line on top. Really, I should have arrows here, huh? Because they are lines that continue on forever. This symbol right here is my parallel. It's just two parallel lines. This second word that we're looking at is perpendicular lines. This is a set of perpendicular lines. This is line L and line BA is perpendicular to line L. Our perpendicular lines, if we remember, they are lines that meet or intersect at 90 degrees. It has to be 90 degrees. If it's not 90 degrees, then you do not have perpendicular lines. You can see right here our little symbol for 90 degrees. These are parallel lines. So we say line L is perpendicular to line BA. This little symbol right here is the perpendicular lines. It looks like perpendicular lines, that's why it's the symbol. And you need to write these in your notes. Write them separately. It's not on this paper. Coming up, our final vocabulary word is slope. This is on your paper. Make sure you are copying this stuff down. So the slope is the measure of steepness of a line or a line segment. The slope is also referred to as the gradient. It is also rise over run. You can see here, rise and run. Okay, we have a slope formula. If you are given 2 points, point A and point B, remember point A is x1, y1, and point B is x2, y2. Our slope formula looks like this. Remember, m equals slope. So we take the y of the second point minus the y of the first point divided by x of the second point minus x of the first point. Make sure you are subtracting before you divide. All right, let's look at an example to find the slope. So I'm going to label, this is x1, this is y1, x2, y2. So slope equals y2 minus y1 divided by x2 minus x1. When we do the math, we get 2. Do we get 2? Yes, we get 2, but it's a negative 2. All right, moving forward. If the slope is positive, the rate of change is going to be the same. So it is also going to be positive. Slope and rate of change are the same thing. So if the slope is negative, and then the rate of change is also negative. We remember from last year, we had this thing called slope-intercept form. On your page, I'm not sure why they have y-intercept as c, but mark it out and put b. So this should read the equation of a line with slope m and y-intercept b is y equals mx plus b. So a line passing through the origin, where's the origin? That's 0, 0, and having a slope of -3, that means that my y-intercept is 0 because that's where it crosses the y-axis, and my slope is -3. So my equation is y equals -3. There is no plus or minus b. So let's look at the parallel lines. Remember, parallel lines, they don't ever meet. So if 2 lines are parallel, then their slope is equal. So we're looking at these 2 parallel lines, line A and line B. Line A has a slope of 4. That means that line B also has a slope of 4. That should say 4, not -4. Sorry about that. All right, moving on to perpendicular lines. Remember, they meet at 90 degrees. Even though these aren't meeting, they eventually will and create our perpendicular lines. So 2 lines are perpendicular. The product of their slope is -1. What this is saying is the slope of line C times the slope of this other line, let's call this line D. Line D equals -1. It's always going to equal -1 if we take the slopes times the slope. But what this is really saying is the slopes of perpendicular lines is negative reciprocals. So let's look at an example to see what I mean. So we have these perpendicular lines, and line D has a slope of -2. Let's look at this line C, m equals -2. So the slope of line C, because it's going to be negative reciprocal. So let's look at the negative part. That means that if this first line slope is negative, I'm doing the opposite of that. So it's going to be a positive. And what reciprocal means is that I am flipping our fraction. Because really, this is -2/1. So I'm going to take the reciprocal. That means I'm flipping it. So I will put 1/2. So the slope of line C will be +1/2 when the slope of line D is -2. So let's look at some examples. So y equals x minus 4. The slope of the line is whatever is in front here, right? If there is no number, it's an imaginary 1. So the slope of my original line is 1. Parallel lines, we said that they have the same slope. So my slope here will also be 1. Slope of a perpendicular line. Let's look at it. We need to take the negative, right? So since this is positive, we're going to have negative here. Reciprocal. We can also say that this is 1/1. When we're taking the reciprocal, we're flipping it. It still is 1/1. So it is 1. Let me know if you have questions on this. Another example, I think this is our last example before we move on to practicing it. We have y equals 6/5x minus 4. So the slope of the line is what's in front of the x. So 6/5. Slope of the parallel lines, remember they are the same. So 6/5. So these slopes equal. Perpendicular, we got to take the negative reciprocal. We have a positive 6/5, so we're going to have a negative here. Our reciprocal, that means we're flipping our fraction. We have 6/5. Reciprocal is flipping this fraction. So it'll be 5/6. So our slope of a perpendicular line will be -5/6. Do I have one more? Nope, that's the end. So what we're going to do now is you're going to move on, you're going to work in groups, and you'll figure all that out on the Nearpod.